The torches flicker, their flames sagging low, smoke curling into the high beams of marble ceilings. You stand before the emperor's palace, its gates yawning open like the jaws of some ancient beast. The air is thick, roses sweeten it, yet wine sours it, and the musk of countless bodies lingers. Somewhere within, music hums. But it isn't gentle. It throbs, restless, like the frantic heartbeat of someone awaiting their doom. Step inside, and the night unravels into spectacle. Golden lamps splash light across silk curtains, shadows lurch across the walls like spirits in torment. Senators' wives, once paragons of Roman virtue, now parade in shame, their honor stripped away like garments at auction. His sisters sit near him, their presence blurring lines of kinship and rumor. And at the center, reclining on ivory cushions, eyes fever-bright, sits Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus. The man history calls Caligula. Not man, not God, but something unmoored. His laughter sharp, his voice carrying like a decree. To some, he was power made flesh. To others, a nightmare in human form. But here lies the trap of Caligula's story. Did Rome truly endure an emperor who bathed the empire in debauchery and blasphemy? Or are we staring at an emperor crucified not just in life, but in memory, by those who needed him damned forever? Tonight, on Disturbing Tale, we descend into the shadows of Caligula. To separate rumor from fact. To see if he was truly the monster history insists, or the victim of one of the deadliest smear campaigns ever written. Before he was a tyrant in the pages of Suetonius, he was a child in miniature armor. Born Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus in 12 CE, he was the son of Germanicus, Rome's golden general. Germanicus was beloved by the legions, a commander whose victories across the Rhine secured loyalty not by fear, but by affection. His soldiers adored young Gaius so much that they dressed him in tiny boots and military gear, calling him Caligula, Little Boot. What began as affectionate mockery became the name that history would never forget. But that childhood charm was set against a darker backdrop. His father, Germanicus, died under mysterious circumstances in the East when Caligula was only 7. Many whispered poison, possibly ordered by Emperor Tiberius, who feared Germanicus's popularity. His mother, Agrippina the Elder, fought fiercely against Tiberius, only to be crushed, exiled, humiliated, and starved to death. Caligula, still a boy, saw his family torn apart by imperial paranoia. By the time he reached adulthood, most of his brothers were dead, his mother disgraced. He alone survived, raised under the suffocating shadow of Tiberius, who dragged him into the political snake pit of Capri. Historians debate what young Caligula witnessed on that island. Some claim it was a paradise turned hell, Tiberius's retreat infamous for rumors of cruelty and excess. Whether or not the stories were exaggerated, the effect on Caligula was undeniable. He grew up watching the throne both empower and destroy his family. So when he inherited it, Rome saw not just an emperor, but the son of its fallen hero, Germanicus. In 37 CE, when Caligula ascended, Rome rejoiced. After decades of Tiberius's grim reign, marked by fear, treason trials, and whispers of depravity, Caligula seemed like salvation. The people adored him. Sacrifices lit the temples. Crowds chanted his name. He freed political prisoners, cancelled unfair taxes, distributed generous gifts, and promised to restore Rome's glory. For a brief moment, he seemed to embody the perfect heir, youthful, charismatic, and merciful. But within months, it all changed. He fell gravely ill, perhaps poisoned, perhaps stricken by disease. For weeks, his life hung by a thread. When he recovered, the man who rose from his bed was not the same as the one Rome had celebrated. His warmth hardened into cruelty. His generosity twisted into extravagance. His laughter began to sound less like joy and more like madness. It is from this moment that the stories begin, whispers of incest, feasts of obscenity, divine delusions. But were these realities, or weapons crafted after his death? No rumor has clung to Caligula more than that of incest with his sisters, Agrippina the Younger, Julia Livilla, and most infamously, Drusilla. Suetonius claimed he flaunted these liaisons publicly, treating Drusilla as his wife. When Drusilla died in 38 CE, Caligula grieved so fiercely that he declared her a goddess, ordering the empire to mourn her as if she were divine consort. But here is the dilemma: there is no direct evidence, only hostile sources. Coins show his sister's images alongside his own, an unprecedented honor that broke Roman tradition. Their prominence alone was scandalous. Roman women were expected to stay in the shadows of politics, not share the stage with emperors. So, did Caligula truly commit incest? Or did the elevation of his sisters blur the lines of propriety so much that enemies twisted it into scandal? Modern historians lean toward slander, but admit his treatment of Drusilla was intimate enough to provoke suspicion. Among the most infamous accusations, that Caligula turned the palace into a brothel, filling its chambers with senators' wives, offering them to whomever he pleased. For Rome, this was no mere scandal of lust, it was humiliation as weapon. To degrade noble women was to emasculate their husbands, to strip senators of honor. But again, where is the evidence? Suetonius, writing decades later, relished the story. Dio echoed it. Yet neither was an eyewitness. What we do know is that Caligula delighted in mocking senators, flaunting his power, and testing Rome's taboos. Did he really run a palace brothel, or was the idea the perfect piece of propaganda to tarnish him forever? The truth may never be known. But whether real or imagined, the rumor alone poisoned his name. Ancient writers insist Caligula's feasts were not meals, but theaters of debasement. Senators seated beside their wives would be forced to endure obscenities. Some accounts claim Caligula took women before their husbands, only to return them with sneering mockery. To Romans, sex was not private, it was political. For an emperor to dominate another man's wife was to destroy him publicly. If true, Caligula wielded sexuality as a weapon of war. Yet, this fits a larger pattern: emperors out of favor were always accused of sexual depravity. Tiberius was said to corrupt children. Nero, later, was accused of bedding his own mother. These tales carried more propaganda than proof. So was Caligula truly guilty, or was he painted with Rome's favorite brush for disgraced rulers, sexual monstrosity? Perhaps the most damning charge: Caligula declared himself a living god. He allegedly appeared dressed as Jupiter, Apollo, even Venus, blurring not just human and divine, but male and female. Temples were said to be rededicated to his worship. Priests sacrificed to his image. To Romans, this was heresy. Emperors could be deified after death, but to claim divinity in life was intolerable arrogance. But was it true? Archaeological evidence suggests he emphasized his divine lineage, common for emperors, but outright godhood may have been exaggerated. For his assassins, the claim was useful. It made his death not just political, but necessary for cosmic balance. On January 24, 41 CE, Caligula's reign ended with daggers in the shadows. The Praetorian Guard, once sworn to protect him, turned on him. He was stabbed to death in a corridor of the Palatine Palace, his body dragged through marble halls. His wife and young daughter were killed soon after. But his death did not silence him. If anything, it gave life to the legend. For centuries, Caligula was remembered not as a ruler, but as a symbol of corruption. Medieval chroniclers retold his story as moral warning. Renaissance playwrights made him grotesque. By the 20th century, cinema transformed him into a synonym for decadence and taboo. But strip away the scandal, and the question remains. Was Caligula truly Rome's most depraved emperor, or its most successful victim of character assassination? Modern historians see a more complex man, a young emperor scarred by family trauma, adored by the people, hated by the Senate, and consumed by the politics of survival. He may have been cruel, erratic, even reckless, but the orgies, the incest, the divine delusions? Perhaps more ink than truth. So when you hear the name Caligula, ask yourself, are you seeing the man, or the shadow Rome painted over him? This is Disturbing Tale, where we pull back the veil of myth and rumor to reveal the truths empires want forgotten. Subscribe now, unless you prefer the lies of history to remain unchallenged. And if you believe Caligula was truly the monster they say, tell us in the comments. Was he guilty of every horror, or the victim of Rome's deadliest propaganda?